So this one today is a very serious video. I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, if you're going to go watch some other video today, or you're going to do something pointless, like, please don't. Just watch this video. It's going to be all about like the mindset and what kind of mindset you really need to succeed with anything, like whether it's online business, offline, brick and mortar, whatever it is. And you really need to hone in on this and understand the whole concept. I've put a lot of work into this video. It's going to be quite long, so maybe grab a coffee or something like that. But by the end of it, you're really going to understand it to the point that it can potentially become your belief, and you need to really understand it through and through, just like that, till it becomes your belief, because then you're going to act in accordance with it, which will then obviously result in succeeding with whatever you choose to do. Okay, so this video is going to be purely for anyone who, you're facing any problems with an online business. Doesn't matter whether you're doing Amazon FBA, affiliate marketing, email marketing, whatever it is, whatever you've been trying with for quite some time, it's failing, or whatever, you just feel like you can't take action, whatever it is, watch this video through and through its entirety. Okay, so like I said, grab a coffee if you need to, or whatever. So the first screen is going to be explaining on what kind of perspective you should have on approaching business or anything that you'd like to succeed with in the first place. So up here we've got like all these different business models. Now success equals like a combination of many different things, yeah. So time, action, which is like how you practice and hone in on your skills, experience, knowledge, like honing the craft, as I said, and failure. That's one of all these different things, because that's where your learning curves come. Okay, so what I would say for the people who, if you're one of those people that say, I'm going to, start online business one day in the future, you're going to do this or whatever, I'd always put this analogy, or, this kind of a scenario across to you. So if I said to you, what time, if you needed to get to the train station by 12 o'clock, then what time would you leave? Yeah, so if it's 10 o'clock right now and you need to get there by 12 o'clock, what time would you leave? Because you've got obviously the future, the past and the present. So that when we look at this and we reflect on it and compare it to business, the best time you can leave is right now. So when you ask yourself the question of, when should you start, or when should you do this, or should you have enough for this money or whatever, like what you need to look at is the best time is to just get started. Now that can be a problem for a lot of people because obviously of different things, different elements that are built up. But if you watch this video through, then I'll break down all of those elements, that might be blocking you from achieving what you'd like to, so you can remove it and then obviously, continue on and plow on. Okay, so if we look at all of these business models up here, you can see I've got Amazon FBA, drop shipping, affiliate marketing, consulting, email marketing, so on and so forth, as I said. So just say, for example, now these combinations are representing the blue bars. Okay, so in order to, do this, you need to have a combination of time, action, experience, knowledge of the actual concept, the business strategy and whatever, hone in the craft, failure, so on and so forth. So that's what this is. Now imagine that this is time, yeah. So just say this was time. So for example, this is all of these things made up, like together combined, yeah. So time, knowledge, experience, whatever, and this is the level you need to get to. So I've got here like success line. So you need to get to 25 in order to succeed, if we were putting it into some fictitious scenario. So you've got here affiliate marketing, that's what I do anyway, but just say for example you need to get to this point in order to succeed, which is the 25 mark. So you need to get 25 combined of time, action, experience, knowledge, honing the craft and failure. What most people do is they will start off just saying consulting, get to 5, and then it doesn't look attractive. So then you move on to the next thing. So you move on to drop shipping, then you get there and it doesn't work. So then you move on to the next thing and you do the same. And eventually you kind of think, okay, well, this is not working. But what you don't realize is that you've never put in enough work in the first place to get to the point of where you would succeed. Okay, so you haven't built up enough time, action, you haven't practiced enough, you haven't got experienced enough, you haven't built up enough knowledge about it, you haven't failed enough, and you haven't honed in like on the craft enough. Okay, so if we move on to give you a better understanding of this and this concept onto the next slide, I want to basically honing on the point of, like when you basically do any type of online business, it always feels like there's a missing part of the puzzle. So I might give you information. You might go and watch, online gurus and whatever else. You watch all these different people that give you information, and it seems like there's just always a missing piece. So no matter what you do, you can never figure out what the missing piece is. And sometimes it holds you back from even getting started because you're looking for that piece in order to get started. So you're thinking, how can I get started without that piece? Because I don't know what to get started with. So like when you look at it, there's two types, there's two phases of anything in life. Yeah. So whether you're a professional athlete, a businessman, a chef, like whatever it is, whatever you choose to do, there's always going to be two things that you have to master. And one of them is going to be your mind, and the other is the craft. So if you're a boxer or something like that, you have to master the art of boxing and also how to manage yourself, because that's what's going to manage you getting up on time, going to sleep, being disciplined, training, all of those different things. So if we look at it, like for example, there's two parts of learning. So there's the input, which is what goes into your brain, and then you've also got a form of learning which is from output. So that's the form of action. So if we look at this, if you were learning to swim, which I'm going to give you in this example, the first thing you would need to do to learn to swim is to go out and, find out about what swimming is about, because you're not just going to dive in. I mean, some people do, but the art of it, you're going to go and find out. You're going to go and, find a swimming instructor and try and see how to swim. So you need to form some type of idea. So then, you can go in and be safe and know that you can eventually do it. So you've got some concept, some kind of substance or idea as to what swimming is about. Yeah. Okay. So you go and find a swimming instructor. You go, you learn, you sit down, you learn. Okay. So that's your input. So you've got that side. And then, you've now formed like an idea of what swimming is like. So you look like these idiots down here and, you're practicing. So you're getting ready to kind of learn what swimming's about. You've got your whole idea right now. So you've got this going on. Yeah. You've got the idea of what swimming is about. Then the last part of learning, which is not being funny, making up 80% of your learning, is going to come from output. So when you jump into the pool and you actually start swimming, you put the research into practice, and that's where it forms inside of your brain as an understanding and a concept and a belief. Because the ultimate truth is when you get out here. When you actually get out to that point over here, that's where the ultimate truth happens. So every kind of, learning curve that you've had is going to be put into action, and then it will become the ultimate truth to you when you actually go out and do it. So if we go on to the next point, if we talk about, like, for example, like I want to move this over here. If we talk about, online business or business in a whole, like I want you to understand something what's called the master algorithm. Now, this isn't my concept, so I'm not going to make out that it is. This is something that I've taken from Sam Ovens, because I took his course on mindset, and it completely changed like my whole life on the way I perceive reality. So like, for you, I would recommend you go and get that course if you're interested in it. I'm not going to leave links. I'm not an affiliate or anything like that. Go and just find the course. It's that good. Life-changing, honestly. So I want you to think of business as a big test, like an experiment. So you see how you got this guy over here? He's basically doing like a test, yeah, like a science experiment. And if you were to go and do a science experiment, you don't just do it once, do you? You keep tweaking it and testing it until you get your desired result. Okay, so it's exactly the same as how you need to view, like, doing a business, okay, whether it's online, offline, or, whether you're trying to, I don't know, become an athlete, whatever it is. You're not just going to go out there. Michael Jordan was not just born and could just play basketball. It took a lot of learning and practice and all these different things. And explain is also how that kind of takes part and develops over time as well. But these are like the stages that I like to look at as like what I would call a master algorithm that Sam Ovens refers to, of business or life. Okay, so you've got the first phase. So say, for example, you wanted to learn, I don't know, Amazon FBA. I'm not going to take affiliate marketing as that's what I always talk about. So just say Amazon FBA. The first thing you need to do is go out and research about the topic. So you're going to go Google it, you're going to YouTube it, you're going to find a few people that are giving information, and you're going to find out one person that you like and see their results and whatever, and you're like, yeah, okay, this is who I'm going to research from. So you research. So that's your first form of learning. Okay, now the second thing you're going to do is form a plan. So the next thing you're going to do is form a plan of how you're actually going to do it. Okay, so when you form this plan, it's going to be in accordance with the research that you've made. So you've got this plan, and the plan is, laid out. So you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I need to set up. I need to do this landing page or this advertisement or whatever. I need this amount of money and all those different things. Now, the next thing you need to do is actually put the plan into action. So that means implementing the plan. And when you take actions, it must be in accordance with the plan. So some people who, I believe, like just leap into darkness, believe that they're risk takers. When you say, hear people say, I'm an entrepreneur, or I'm this and I'm that, and they basically take a leap of faith, like jumping off the side of a cliff with no plan of action. Like, so that's why they have like huge heavy failures. So like, for example, when you form a plan, that's like your kind of foundation, your guideline, that you're going to act in accordance with that. Now, it might not go according to that, but that's your guideline. That's going to be your route of action, like in that sense. So it gives you some type of direction to what you're doing. Okay, now the one thing that people forget about when they do action, everyone says, action, 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 and the action must be, huge, like immense amount of action. But the next thing of the master algorithm, the next part of it is feedback. So you need to listen to the feedback. Now, what this means is reflecting. Now, you might be asking yourself, like, how do you reflect? So it's quite simple. And this is the way I look at reflection, is what worked, what didn't work. So if you're trying to get to 5,000 a month, you need to look at what got me closer to that and what didn't. What got me closer, what didn't. Okay, so, and then you make iterations on that. So what that is just tweaking the plan. So you just change it based on the feedback. So whatever the plans, whatever the feedback said is what worked, what didn't. You cut out the things that didn't work, or you fix them, and then you do more of what worked. And then you take action again in accordance with the new plan that you formed based on all of the tweaks that you've made. After you've taken action again, you then come back and reflect again. So you obviously see what worked, what didn't work, and then you take action, and then you come back to that, and then you reflect on it and see what worked, what didn't work. You take action, and it's a consistent science experiment, just like when someone's trying to form, I don't know, some kind of liquid or substance out of different chemical elements. They would keep testing it, like when, I don't know, someone's doing, when you get a scientist doing CSI or whatever, like crime scene investigation, and they have to keep testing things in order to get things right. Is this person's blood or is it not? They can't just do it the one time and expect the results. And that's what the master algorithm is. It's the constant process of doing this again and again and again until you get to the point. Now, the next slide is basically going to explain this a little bit better and really drive the point home. So the way your success is measured when you're doing business, if we're talking with business, it's very easy to understand, what things worked and what didn't work. And that's because your success is measured on how much money you're making. So how much money your business makes. Okay, so I've seen obviously some people, who are so proud of the fact that, I don't know, they're developing some type of business and they've made the business, but it makes no money. And they're just like, yeah, I made this business, I've done that, but it has not made any money. And that's how your success is measured, is how much money is it making. Like, unfortunately, it's a very taboo topic talking about money, but that is how your success is measured. I believe that, maybe other people don't. That's how I measure my success, is by how much money I'm making. Okay, so it's very easy to say what produced money and what didn't. Okay, so when you're talking about websites or, SEO or Amazon FBA, it's like what produced traffic and money and what didn't produce traffic or money. And you list it out, you could keep it as simple as this, which is why I've done it. You could bullet point what made money, what didn't. Do more of this, fix these, or cut it out. If you can cut it out, cut it out. If you can't cut it out and it's something that's needed, then fix it. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next slide. Okay, so the next part of this is basically talking about feedback loops and, how we've had a warped kind of understanding right off the bat of how we're going into, this modern world and this open world of business with the wrong mindset. It's a very flawed mindset to have. So there's two things to life. You get input and output with your brain of learning, as we explained. Yeah. Now, I'm going to keep repeating that because I really want you to understand that concept. So you learn mainly 80%, I would say, from output. Yeah, so that's your action. So just say, for example, you're trying to learn to ride a bike. You could go and read about learning a bike. It's like driving a car. You go and do your theory, your hazard perception. So that obviously is something that gives you awareness when you're driving the car, yeah, or riding a bike. But then the next thing is going to be actually riding it. And until you get on the bike and actually ride the bike, you will never learn how to ride it. Okay, so why this is such a big problem when we're talking about, getting into business or anything like that is because of the way that we've been taught. So the way we're taught in, school or wherever is that we learn for 5 years, yeah, like straight, like 5 years before taking any action. So before giving any output, we take input for 5 years straight, so this is secondary school. So you're like, so you're doing research. You're doing research. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to move that. And then after 5 years, you try and put 5 years of that knowledge on into like a quick 6 months of exams at the end of school. So at the very end, you put in everything you've learned. So what can easily happen here now is that you start to go into business and think that you need to basically research for years and years. Like, it warps your perception on things. So you do this for a long time, and that's the wrong thing to do. In business, you win by actually doing the output, this stuff here. This is what you need to be doing. So if you're learning and researching, and this is what gets smart people. So that's the interesting thing. The smartest people academically are the ones who get stuck in that phase. People who are kind of like, not as smart. They don't really overthink it like that. So they just go out and do it. It's usually the smartest people that get stuck in this place. But if you're doing any type of online business, this is the last place you want to be. You could actually kind of be in here for like a week or so and get straight into here and spend 5 years there, and you'll be way more successful than that guy. Guaranteed, every single time. Okay, now when you actually go out and you start business and you get into this kind of whole system of doing actions and feedback and all these different things, you're going to go into a kind of I would say cause and effect kind of system of life. That is what I measure, and what is called feedback loops. So the way feedback loops work is very simple. For example, if you in outside and you're cold, you start to feel cold. So this is you in the middle, yeah. So this is you. You start to feel cold, and then you basically tell yourself that you're feeling cold. So then your body temperature lowers, yeah, and then because your body temperature decreases, you basically start to feel that you're more cold. And because you tell yourself you're more cold, your body temperature decreases even more. So you start to feel it. It's like when you're sick and, you're on a ship or something and you're like, I'm sick. And then, you're like, you keep telling yourself I'm sick, then you feel sick. Then you're like, I'm really sick. Then you feel more sick. Then you're like, I'm really, really sick. Then you're like, I'm so sick. And then you throw up. You see? So it's like the feedback loop happening. And if we were to use it for this example, they're using it in a quite opposite example, but I just wanted you to get the idea by, illustrating it on a picture or an image. Here you can see, obviously, if the person becomes hot, they raise their arms and it decreases the body temperature, which then obviously they raise their arms and decreases, and so on and so forth, sweating. So that's the way sweating happens. Sweating happens, comes out, and then, body temperature decreases, and then so on and so forth. Okay. So anyway, if we were to look at this, when we say, positive feedback loops, there's positive and negative. So some people, let me see what slide it is. I've got it on. Like some people, okay, I'm going to explain it on one of the other ones. But yeah, some people basically, have you ever realized like some people, it's like everything they do, they feel like everything's going bad. And then other people, everything they do, it's like everything's going good. That's all because of feedback loops. So the way it works is basically you basically see when you've like formed your plan or your hypotheses or whatever it is. Yeah. So you've got your plan together based on the research you've done, and then you take action. You're at this point here. Yeah. So you've got your research and you've got your plan, RP. Yeah. And basically you've you're armed with that, and then now you need to put it into action, but actually make it move. So now you go up here, and then you face a barrier. Okay, so this, can you see I've done like loops here? And what that is basically at this point is where you become better. So you face like a barrier. There's always going to be barriers and thresholds to the extent of your knowledge and your capabilities and whatever within that given time. So for example, when you get to this point here, you obviously you hit a brick wall, yeah, and what happens is that's the point where you're tested and you learn. Okay, so when you're doing it, basically you put your plan into action, and then you might be, you get to the point where you can make 500 a month, and then you're like, oh well, how do I get further than this? Or how do I get to the next point? Well, it's through feedback loops. So what you do is at this point, once you hone in and fix the problem, you become more confident, and then with that confidence, you form like a new idea based on the what worked, what didn't work concept, and then you take action in accordance with that new plan. And what happens is that moves you up the ladder, and then each time you do that, you keep doing it, you keep making reiterations, and then obviously forming a new plan and taking action in accordance with it, and eventually you're basically going through these levels. Now, whilst this looks all nice and gravy, that's not how it happens in reality, and we'll go over that in one of the following slides. So when you think of like online business or anything like that, I want you to think of it in two big things. Okay, so with whatever it is that you're doing on the internet, there's only two things that you do. So you've got the platform, and then you've got like which you use to convert people. So you convert people into buying stuff from a peer, someone just looking, to a buyer, a customer. And then you've got traffic. So the two things are, if you want to make money online, is to get traffic, lots of people coming in interested in this particular topic, and then selling to them. That's it. Like whether you're doing Amazon FBA, affiliate marketing, email marketing, it's all just getting traffic and then just selling to them. So the first thing you need to build is the thing to sell. Okay, so that's your product, your service, your landing page, your website, all of those different things. And that's what you call your asset. It's like having a property. So that's like building your house, but then you need to get people in the house to make the income. So you need to get people in to actually get your rental income. So without those people coming into the house, you'll have no income. Okay, so that's exactly how you kind of have it. Now, this is you on this side here, and this is you with your plan, your hypotheses, and whatever else, yeah, and your research. You're armed with all of that, and you've got your product and service with you at the moment. Now, the way you need to look at it is that basically your whole goal of your first process of getting up to this first level here. So when I was explaining, for you to get to this point right here, yeah, this is where you are right now. That's you. Okay, that's you. And that's you right here. And in order for you to get up the ladder, to get to that first level of where you need to get to, in that sense, you need to basically put your product or service out in the market and test it, like the science experiment. So you've got your plan, and then you need to take action, test. You need to test it. And the only place you can test this product or service and get feedback is in the marketplace. So you can only get feedback from pushing your product or service out into the marketplace. So you need to get this over to them. Now, there's many different ways of doing that. You can do it by running advertising, SEO, whatever it is. It's just traffic. So you have to get the traffic in order for them to view it. For them to see this, you must get traffic. And then that's where you can potentially make these people from just viewers into buyers. Now, what I wanted to do in this video is explain about blockages. So what happens is when you're armed with your product or service, so you might have built a website, or you've got this e-com business, you've built the actual platform on Shopify or whatever you've done, then you form a block. Now, what happens when you form this block is you make it impossible for you to ever have success. So these things I've got here, 3 different ones. Some of the blocks that people come out with are called this one, lack of knowledge. So people, might have lack of knowledge. You might use an excuse that you got a baby, your timing, you haven't got the time. knowledge, skills, all of these different things. And what I want to explain is the moment that you actually assign any of those things to your life as an excuse of why you're not doing a certain thing, you've immediately made it completely impossible on this planet to ever succeed, because you're basically using this as a block not to do what you're doing. So you can't create this product and service. Even this product and service is on the other side of that barrier, because you're probably going to say, I don't have time or knowledge to create a product or service, so the moment you need to really understand this and understand that when you assign any of those things to your life, you immediately make it completely impossible to succeed. It's like there is no possible way of that happening whilst those things are something that you believe is holding you back. So if we look at it, the other thing people use is money, stress, time, as I said. Yeah, another few are skills, or being a perfectionist. You need to get it perfect. So you don't get your product or service. So you got your product or service, but because it's not perfect, you don't even know what perfect is. It's like when an iPhone comes out. I always give this example to my friends and they love it. When you get an iPhone, have you realized that it keeps getting updated? That's because they get the product and service and they put it out to the marketplace. Then the market is going to give feedback. That's you guys complaining, doing all this different stuff. And then they make an iteration. So that's when they go through this process. They get the feedback. You start complaining that the phone's not working and there's glitches. So they say, what worked, what didn't work? Well, they're not going to change the screen because that's been working good. Really good quality screen. iPhone camera, brilliant. Oh, no problem with the camera? We don't need to change it. So the only thing they list out is what didn't work. What was the things that never resulted in more sales, more revenue, a better, for them, it's like what resulted in, our product not being better, so it's like better and worse. That's what you need to look at. So whilst you have any of those things in your life, like, you believe you don't have the skills, you don't have, you want to be a perfectionist, you have pain, you have timing, you have kids, family, life, whatever excuse you make, just understand that whilst those things are assigned to, why you can't do something, you immediately have made it completely impossible on this universe to achieve what you're trying to get to. So what you need to do is remove all of those excuses and then obviously, put everything that you're learning into action. Okay. So that's that concept. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, like, what is this whole thing? How do I take action? I don't know how to build a business. How do I start? How do I build a business? All of these different things. Well, it's quite straightforward when you look at it in this way. So business is just the art of finding a problem and then solving it. So say, for example, you've got this person who's finding it hard to sleep. And, it says consider seeing a psychologist, manage stress, their clock, set the right bedtime, avoid naps. They might have a toothache. They might have all these different things. Well, what the job of an entrepreneur is to do is to identify that problem. Like, so this person's in pain, and the job of you as a business person is to create a solution. Okay. So if this person basically had a toothache, like, they will pay to fix that toothache. Okay. So, when you've had a toothache, it's really painful. It's one of the worst pains you can possibly have. So if you're lying in bed and you've got a really bad toothache, even if a dentist came to you at that time of night or whatever, you wouldn't care, first of all, because this is another thing people say, well, people won't buy from me because I don't look like this person, or I don't have these skills or whatever. You need to remove all of those different things, because you see, like when I was explaining just now, that's all about this stuff. You're basically making excuses. I don't have the skills. I don't have this. Because what an entrepreneur does is they have an outlook that they will learn it. So if you don't have the skills, it's like, what do I need to learn in order to become, that person who can solve this problem? So, for example, if you wanted to start a business around, helping people to fix their teeth, well, one thing you might need to learn to do is, find dentists that can do it if you were trying to do like a consulting business or something like that. So what you would need to do is find dentists that can solve the problem, and then obviously go out, get the traffic and convert the traffic using your platform or whatever to send them on and get them to the solution. So your form of advertising is always going to be based around the desired outcome that the person's trying to get. So if someone's, trying to you know, they got a toothache, then your advertising is going to be like, I'll fix your tooth. You know, if they got a molar problem, I'll fix your molar, whatever it is. Yeah. So your job is to basically provide a product or service that provides them a transformation from the problem to a desired outcome, which is in the form of a solution. Okay, and that's exactly what you need to do. Okay, so the next slide. So the next slide is basically gonna, you know, explain and honing on exactly, you know, the whole process of this whole feedback loop system. Yeah, so a positive feedback loop. So you've got your research and plan, and this is you at the beginning. So I keep going over the same point. Yeah, this is you, and this is where you're trying to get to. So just say, you know, 10,000. That's like my goal right now, 10K a month, whatever. So you've got your research and plan, and you try and get there. So you obviously go and look at people who are making 10K a month. You're like, okay, so that's your research. Then based on what they teach you, you form a plan of action. So then you take action and you're like, shit, this is not working. What am I doing wrong? You make tweaks. You look at what worked, what didn't work. So we go back to the cycle here. What worked, what didn't work. Okay, and then in accordance with that, we take action again. What worked, what didn't work. Tweak. What worked, what didn't work. Now the green line is how people perceive, you know, business to go. Like, and it never does. Yeah. In reality, it actually looks like this, and it goes boom, boom, and you're like down, and then you're up, and whatever, and you have all these rocky days. But the difference between people who succeed and who don't is that some people stick to the plan regardless, and they understand that emotions are emotions, and it doesn't obviously alter the way that you should take action. So that's the difference. You really need to understand, and this is, you know, comes into understanding yourself and learning about your mind, is that, you know, you start to understand that you're in control, and your body is something that just is like a roller coaster, and your mind's going to go through all these different, you know, ups and downs, but it's your job to actually understand that, you know, it's not how you're going to live your life in that sense. And you consistently work your way up to get into that point. So what I want to, you know, kind of end this video on is the last piece of the puzzle with, you know, like everything. So once you've formed this plan and, you know, action and whatever, the last thing is time. And that's like, you know, the magic kind of pill in that sense. It's time, because with time is where all of these things compound. So what I want to talk about is compound effect. So what compounding is the difference between how you get people like Warren Buffett and then people who are poor, down and out, the average person. And it's all through good decisions, bad decisions, and actions of each person. So this person's winning, this person's losing. Very simple concept. Okay, so if we look at like compound effect, is what it is when something keeps stacking and stacking and stacking. So if I said to you, each day put, you know, £2 away in the bank, what happens is, if you were making interest on that money, just say it was a fixed rate of 10%, well, the first day is going to be 10% of £2, so that's 20p. So it's £2.20. But the second day is going to be 10% of £2.20. So now you've got a bigger hole. Okay, so that's 22p. And then the next day is going to be 10% of £2.42. So you can see that this big thing, this compound, that's the process of compounding. We've gone from £2 to £2.42 in 2 days. Yeah, so that would be then 10% of £2.42, which is obviously 24 pence or whatever. And then you're going to go the next day, which is 10% of £2.60 odd. You know, so this is how the money grows. So if we were to do this with just 1 penny, you can see that if you were to compound at just obviously, you know, it would be double here, it looks like. So at, you know, 100%, just to give you an example. So we're just doubling. You can see obviously, you know, that it's like so each day of the month, it's obviously, you know, compounding. Yeah. So they're talking about delayed gratification here. And you can see it happens with everything like this. Just imagine day 30 is getting fat. So you keep eating shit. And every day you keep looking at it, it's only this day, it's only this day, it's only this day. But eventually this big thing's stacking, and all that weight becomes like 10 stones, you know. So that was all made up of a couple of pounds here, a couple of pounds there, a couple of pounds. And it just becomes that you're big, you know, you're overweight. Okay, so it's the same thing of when going to the gym, getting in shape. You do little small steps, small steps, small steps, and eventually you're muscular, you know? So it's the same with money. So if you were to double 1p on day 2, it would be 2p. On day 3, you double day 2, like 2p, it'll become 4p. You double day 3 of 4 pence, it becomes 8 pence, so on and so forth. And by day 30, you can see by just doubling it, it becomes 5.3 million. And that's the process of compounding. Now, how does that kind of, relate to you and your life and whatever else? Well, the way that it works is it's based on decisions that you make today. So when you're going through these processes of feedback loops, it's positive, even though you might have failures and all different things. What's happening is you're building up knowledge, failure. Look, so from the first slide, you're building up time, you're building up action, yeah, you're building up experience, knowledge, you're honing the craft, and you're building up failures that are teaching you things. And where you need to operate from is from here in the present. So every single day, it's like, what can I do right now? Forget about the next week or so, whatever, because you need to focus on the next week, like briefly, and okay, well, that's where I'm going. But then you need to know, okay, what am I doing right now? What can I do right now? Like today, what can I do right now today? And that's what you're going to take action on in accordance with that. Okay, so you've got your direction. That's what the future gives you. And then you take actions in accordance with that direction that you're trying to go in. So when you look at this is life, yeah? And you can see here, this is like $1,000 that goes in. It only, compounds at 8%. So that's 8% interest per year. And by the end of 100 years, it's 2.1 million. Okay, so even in 80 years, it's 400,000, 470,000. So you can see, obviously, this is how you get the difference between someone of for example, Warren Buffett, who keeps compounding. Because what happens is it's not just the money that compounds, your knowledge does, your confidence builds up, all of these different things. So if I were to go back to the feedback loop, what happens is, I've noted it here, is that you create these habits, yeah? So you take action with your, research and plan, and then you build up confidence at these points because you fell, and then you're like, fuck, it's not working, whatever, all of those different things. And then you fix it and you prove to yourself, you're like, I can do this. So then you basically, you've gone that little notch further. It's like when you try something new for the first time and it just seems like, complete foreign language to you. And then you get stuck at that barrier, and that's your point of where you're really learning. And then you figure it out and you're like, I can do this. You get a bit more confident, and then you take action in accordance with your confidence, and that pushes you a little bit more. Then you get knocked back and you're kind of like, oh, I don't really know if I can do this. Then you fix it. But the only time you keep fixing these problems is if you're a persistent person. So you need to keep knocking on the wall, and never give up. And that's one of the things that you really need to understand, because if you give this, injection with time, this whole system that you're creating, there's no way that you will never succeed. You will always succeed, guaranteed, So I hope this gives you basically a better understanding of how to run an online business. And if I could give you any advice, honestly, out of all of this, I would say that it would be, to understand this master algorithm. Like, this is the most important thing here. Yeah. So it's researching, setting a plan out, taking action, which means output. Action means output, okay? Doing it, yeah? Then feedback, what worked, what didn't work. Iterations, action again, output, yeah? Feedback, iterations, action, output, and then back. Just looking at everything like a big, massive test. Instead of looking at things like you're going to do it once, it's like trying to get on a bike and ride it the first time. You never, that's stupid. You got to keep tweaking it. So you fall off the bike, that's your failure. You get back on and you're like, okay, I can do this a little bit. So you try again, and you're rocky, but it's like you don't fully understand it, but you're learning, and you're going up that process. You fall off the bike, you keep learning. Eventually you're popping wheelies down the road, so I hope it gives you a better understanding. Maybe I can't pull it into words of exactly, how to put it across to you in that sense, but this is my understanding of how things work. So it's just a big test. Imagine it like an experiment, and you're not looking at it like it's going to go out and get right. What you're actually doing is you're forming this kind of thing, this product or service, and then you're basically planting the seed. You need to put it into the marketplace,
And when you do that, you need to drive traffic to it, and then try and convert the traffic. So if you kind of think to myself, I don't know, what to do, like if I put it out, how do I know people are going to buy it? You don't know. No one knows that. So all you can do is basically research as best to the best of as you can, and take action and put it into the market with as much as you know. And then you'll get the feedback. So you'll say, okay, well, did people buy it? Okay, they didn't. So then you can analyze and really take, actions that are going to be really beneficial to you moving forward. This is why it's the missing piece that you don't have. Every time when you're trying to, figure out what the missing piece is, that is the missing piece. It's the action, because the action is what gives you the results. So even when people give you like a business and whatever, you're in a different niche. You've got you're a different person. You've written things in a different way, in your own words. Everything is different, so they can only give you what's working for them and the concept. But then to make your actual business work, you've got to listen. The feedback doesn't come. You're not going to learn the feedback, and that's what the most important thing is, the feedback. You could never get the feedback from your tutor or your guru that you're watching on YouTube. They cannot give it to you. Because it doesn't exist. It's not it's not possible on this earth. The only way you can get it is by putting your product or service into the marketplace, and the market will give you the feedback. And that's where the missing piece comes in. Okay, so I hope you understand that. And if you are new, make sure to subscribe. I know it's a long video, but I had to make this video. So if anyone ever asks me about mindset again, or no, about anything, starting a business, they need to watch this video. Peace.